Well, as earlier mentioned, members of parliament are plotting to oust the Salaries and Remuneration Commission from office on grounds that, among other issues, the commission acted in a breach of the law by planning to reduce their salaries without consulting them. And to delve deeper into this issue, with me in studio is Charles Kanjama, an advocate of the High Court. Of course, we were expecting Mithuka Linturi with us in studio tonight, but he was not able to make it. Charles, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Pleasure.
The Honorable Linturi, let's begin with him. He was supposed to be here tonight. He could have answered this question for us. He tabled a petition in Parliament seeking to remove members of the SRC on grounds that they have acted unconstitutionally by reducing the MP's pay package. Have they acted unconstitutionally?
I could answer the question according to my view, but what I would say is that, first of all, Honorable Linturi is right or is entitled to bring a petition of that nature in Parliament. Any person under the Constitution can request Parliament to consider a motion about whether a commissioner has acted unconstitutionally. There are many issues that are coming up involving the law and the Constitution. There are those who are arguing that the Gazette notice should have been tabled in Parliament. These are the MPs. There are those arguing that their salaries should not have been reduced. But I think that on a plain reading of the Constitution, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission was entitled to do what it did. Whether it did it prudently, whether it followed all the due process that it should have followed in terms of doing proper studies, comparative and otherwise, that is a different issue.
Right. Now, the SRC is an independent constitutional commission. MPs now calling for the removal of members. Under the Constitution, do the MPs have power to do this, and on what grounds?
First of all, MPs do have power. In fact, any member of the public has power to call for the removal of any commissioner of any constitutional commission. And the Constitution provides that if any commissioner misconducts themselves, either abuses or violates the Constitution, either has issues of incompetence, mental incapacity or physical incapacity, then any member of the public, and this includes a member of Parliament, can petition Parliament to consider that motion. If Parliament approves that motion, then it goes to the President, who may choose to suspend the commissioner or to leave the commissioner in office, but must appoint a tribunal with 4 members, a judge of the High Court, 2 additional lawyers, and a 4th person to investigate that complaint. So that process is what is being triggered right now. We don't know how far it will go, but anyone can bring up that complaint against a commissioner in Parliament.
Now, when the SRC was reviewing the salaries of the MPs, it was an open and consultative process. In fact, the MPs were represented by the PSC. So isn't it then a fallacy for them to now come out and say that they were not consulted and yet they were represented by the Parliamentary Select Committee?
I think the Constitution has designed the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to be the biggest commission in terms of membership, in order to give all the parties affected by the decisions of SRC an opportunity to give their point of view. There is a member there from most of the commissions sitting in SRC. There is somebody from Treasury. So it is a commission that is very well resourced to deal with these issues. And definitely there was a member of Parliamentary Service Commission when SRC was considering these issues. But we should also remember, Lillian, that Parliament had been dissolved. There was no substantive Parliament in force from January when SRC was undergoing this process of reviewing the salaries. So there wasn't a lot of opposition from the prospective MPs. They were not there. They were out campaigning. So what they're saying is that now that they've come into office after a grueling campaign, they need to be given an opportunity to have a say in their salaries. And I think Kenyans also need to be aware that MPs are complaining that they appear to be the main people targeted. Apart from MPs and cabinet secretaries, the members of constitutional commissions under the Constitution, their salaries cannot be reduced, and so have not been reduced. Judiciary, judges, their salaries cannot be reduced, have not been reduced. So what they're saying is that this is an unbalanced targeting of MPs and they need to have a say. That is their view. Kenyans can disagree with them, but we need to be aware that they are raising points that need to be answered.
All right. And there is this argument, and I'm sure wherever the MPs are, they're very happy with your views, Charles. But there is an argument that these are state agents. These are employees of the people. Is it then morally acceptable for them to be demanding for pay hikes even before delivering on their mandate to the people?
I think the new constitution was trying to avoid a situation where an employee, because all public officers are employees, decides on their own salary. There has to be an independent party who decides on their salary. And we saw how in previous parliaments, the 9th parliament especially, and even the 10th parliament, the fact that MPs could decide on their own pay was grievously abused to always increase their pay. So the constitution sets up this special commission that is independent to do it, so that MPs are not meant to do it themselves. The reality though is that this commission, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, sets their own salaries as they are setting salaries of other state officers. So what MPs are saying is that if their own salaries they've set quite high, why are they reducing ours? So that is the pro and con in this debate. But I do agree with the view of a majority of Kenyans that the MPs are not the ones to set their own salaries. Any law, including the previous National Assembly Remuneration Act that contravenes the Constitution, is null and void to the extent of that inconsistency with the Constitution.
The 851,000 salary review was for the 10th Parliament. So coming in now and saying that their salaries have been slashed would seem a tad misplaced, seeing that this is a new Parliament, this is a new contract. How then do you say that your salaries have been slashed and yet this is a new contract, so to speak, a contract to the people of Kenya?
Yes, that is correct. The MPs are making both a legal and a moral argument. The legal argument is they're saying that their salaries should not be scrapped. They have had as a supporter Francis Atwoli of Kotu, who said that salaries should not be reduced. And regarding the legal argument, there's a very simple answer. The contract came to an end. This is a new contract. The new contract can be at a lower figure. But they're also raising a moral argument. They're saying that MPs were at a certain level of society. If you reduce their pay, it is true it is a new contract, but you don't reduce the pay of all the other people, state officers, then they feel they're being targeted or discriminated against. And the answer to the political or moral argument is not to say, as many people are saying, that, well, you knew you are going into this position with a lower pay, take it or leave it. I think the solution is to listen to them and come to an understanding, but not to yield to the pressure that they are applying on the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
And on
because
this,
that is unethical.
Right, and on this pressure, who is supreme between the SRC and the parliamentary committees on this issue? Do we have a legal standoff as we speak?
I think the Constitution is so clear that it beggars belief that anyone would argue otherwise. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission is independent and has the clear constitutional mandate of setting and reviewing salaries and remuneration of all state officers. Members of Parliament are state officers. In regard to that particular aspect of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission mandate, the PSC, or the Parliamentary Select Commission, has no role. Its only role is to recommend to SRC. They have no role of approving, disapproving, refusing to accept. That is not their role. And I think it has to be very clearly said that anyone in the Parliamentary Service Commission who decides to go against the salary structure established by SRC and pays out salary at a different rate is violating the Constitution, is engaging in conduct that is contrary to Chapter 6, and can be impeached from office. And
as we wind up, the taxpayer, of course, already overburdened and saying that the clamor for MPs to seek a pay hike is preposterous. The president himself, during the opening of Parliament, saying that the MPs' salary increment demands are unsustainable. We're looking at a high wage bill as a country. Is seeking personal interest a violation of the Constitution, would you say? The MPs are obviously seeking their personal interest. They're putting their interests ahead of those of the Wananchi.
Chapter 6 says that a state officer should avoid situations of conflict between personal interest and the public interest. What MPs, however, are saying is that we are not trying to increase our salaries. We are trying to return them to where they were before they were reduced. Do MPs have a right to make this argument within Parliament? The Constitution provides them with parliamentary privilege and immunities. Within the four walls of Parliament, within the chambers of Parliament, they can make any argument without being found to have violated the Constitution, so long as they follow the standing orders. But outside the walls of Parliament, when the Parliamentary Service Commission is now paying salaries, if that happens contrary to the law, then they would not have immunity anymore. So that what they do within Parliament, they are protected. And it's important that they are protected because Parliament is a very important institution in this country and in any country, any democratic society, that they need to be able to argue anything in Parliament. But outside Parliament, they cannot violate the Constitution or just enter into conduct that involves conflict of interest without suffering the penalty.
Right. And as we wind up, Charles, where are we as of now? MPs insisting that they will continue to push for a new commission, a new SRC to be set up. Kenyans not happy, the taxpayer not happy with news that the MP is demanding for an even higher salary. We're seeing now that it's not just the 500,000, there are additional allowances that bring their salaries up against more to more than 1 million. Civil society groups up in arms saying absolutely not, this is preposterous. Where are we as we stand? What's the way forward?
I think on the part of the MPs, they are undergoing a lot of pressure. They are waiting for their salaries. Their salaries have not come. On the part of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, they're also undergoing some pressure because they are being put under the microscope by the MPs. The debate is going to take place, and if MPs succeed, a tribunal will be formed. Many legal scholars are confident that even if a tribunal is formed, it will not find that they acted unconstitutionally, the SRC commissioners. But we're in a stalemate, and the stalemate needs to be resolved, and I don't think the resolve is by any party staring down at the other. I think they need to sit down on the same table, talk together, and come up to an agreement that satisfies both parties, not perfectly, but at least allows them to move forward and serve the country.
All right, and of course, remembering that 5 years from now, they'll be coming back to the very same people who voted them in, asking for votes. I think these are some of the things they should consider. Of course, quite an emotive issue here, based on the comments that we're getting. A lot of people not too happy with the push by MPs to ask for a salary increment. We thank you for your views, Charles Kanjama, advocate of the High Court, breaking this down for us and helping us understand a bit better what the Constitution says regarding this issue. We've got lots more lined up for you on Citizen Weekend. Let's take a look at what's still ahead. Former Prime Minister indicates to a possible comeback to Parliament. And which way forward for Kenya-West relationship?